My memories of hiding behind a couch, hoping that it would end, covering my eyes, covering my ears. And this is a little different than the movie, because in the movie we just had to tone it down, but I want to share a little bit more. I literally grew up at 5 years old. I lost my childhood.
You were about to spend the next 10, 15 years in darkness.
Every child, every person who has gone through even a fraction of what you have been through is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching.
I hated God at the time, actually. I blamed him for all of that stuff. But that's when the healing began. And to be honest with you, 30, 40 years later, I'm still healing.
What you're about to watch is a really powerful interview with a man named Nate Deen. Now, he is the real-life person that inspired the movie Brave the Dark. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a warning, a content warning here, that in this interview, we're going to talk about domestic abuse, violence, and specifically suicide. Now, if you're not in a place to hear that right now, totally understand, maybe some other time. So just be warned that that's going to be some things we talk about. But in the end, it's not about that. This is a story of hope, encouragement, and people showing up in the darkness.
Nate, I'm so excited that you were willing to join us here for the podcast. We have so many questions for you because a lot of us just saw the movie and we had all the tears and all the laughter and everything that goes along with it. But we want to talk to you a little bit about everything. But before we do, where are we? This is the first time I've recorded the podcast outside of a studio. So where are we at right now? Can you tell us?
Well, I can't think of a more appropriate place to be. We're in the New Holland Area Historical Society Museum.
You're
right
going to have
here
to
in New
explain
Holland.
why this is the most appropriate place.
Because they allowed me to set up the Remarkable Mr. Deen exhibit. And so it just tells Stan's whole life from literally his birth all the way until he passed away, and then including some memorabilia and things from the movie Brave the Dark.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So can people come here and check it out?
Absolutely. Yep. It's free. Donations are accepted, but it's we just wanted to share Stan's life story.
So Nate, tell us about you. So how would you introduce yourself? Who's Nate Deen?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I'm an advocate. I'm a film producer. And I'm just a guy that survived a really bad childhood with the help of with another person, taking care of my needs when I needed it the most. My story is hard to hear at times, but I promise you, if you listen and get through it, there is joy and hope at the end, and a hero emerges. Right? So we'll get there.
I love that.
Right?
A hero emerges.
Yeah.
We wait and see.
I think one of the best parts of telling my story is that it was healing. It wasn't until I started telling my story 13 years ago that real healing began. And so if you're struggling today with things, find someone to share your story with, your pains and your hurts. Because it's a way of healing. Right. I healed while making the movie Brave the Dark. I thought I was completely healed, but actually doing it and reliving some of it brought back some really hard, painful things. But I healed through it. Yeah.
So thank you for braving the story again, and maybe even doing some healing as you tell it. Yeah. So. But does your story begin sad? Like, tell us about before everything happens. What is the early childhood of Nate? Did it begin well? Like, tell me about it.
Yeah, no, sadly, I only have a couple of memories of my parents, and they're all but one are negative. I have one amazing memory of my mom just laying in bed one morning and just being under the covers, and she's tickling me, and we're just laughing together. And I knew that she loved me very deeply. And so that's the only good memory I have as a child, and that's at like 4 or 5 years old. But most of my memories are of yelling and screaming and punching of my dad abusing my mother, grabbing her by her throat, yelling at her, pushing her at the door, pushing her up against the wall, knocking things over, throwing things, yelling, cursing, screaming. Those are sadly my memories of hiding behind a couch, hoping that it would end, covering my eyes, covering my ears, at 4 years old, 5 years old. And so it wasn't pleasant. That's the memory I have, and sadly it just gets worse and worse until one day, I'm just playing out in the front yard, as any young boy would do, playing with my little airplane, running around, pretending I'm a pilot flying. My parents were never married. They did live together. And my mom actually went to the police and got a restraining order on my dad. And so he had to move out and was not allowed around on the property. But one morning when I was out playing, I see his car come flying in the driveway, and he skids in and gets out of the car, and he's angry because he had heard that my mom was moving on, that she had found somebody else.
So your dad was very jealous, man.
Extremely. Yep, extremely. Yeah, I don't know much. A lot of my other family don't tell me the stories of them ever falling in love, or I don't know the stories of how they met. Because at one time they probably loved each other very deeply. But my dad was an angry man. I know he had arguments with men and got into a lot of trouble and things. But again, I don't have a lot of memories. So for him to show up angry, he must have heard something. He knew or heard something that.
Wow. So your mom had gotten out of the abusive relationship. It
Yes.
looked like things were on the up. She
Yes.
was there was a restraining order, and she was maybe with someone else.
Yes, and but he basically stalked us. We would see him in awkward places, and he would scare us. And
That's horrifying.
yeah, it was pretty
So
horrifying.
the monster under your bed was your dad.
Yes. Yes. Wow. And yeah, there was just something about him that just wasn't right. So I don't know if it was mental illness or whatnot. Again, none of that was ever brought up in family talks or meetings or anything. But it was a time of just when a young boy at 5 should just be playing and having a good time and getting muddy and jumping in puddles and playing with his trucks and his toys. Literally, what happens within minutes of that day, I lost my childhood. I literally grew up at 5 years old. I lost my childhood.
So take us to that day. And do you mind?
Yeah, no, I'll share it.
So if I understand correctly, so your mom started dating someone. Your dad was waiting for this moment. And he was following, making sure that no one else could have her.
Yep. Yeah, as he was hiding kind of around the corner, and as my mom's new boyfriend left, he waited till he pulled out, and then
He was
pulled in.
there.
So he was observing, knowing that she had stayed overnight.
Wow.
And so he was very angry. And so he gets out of the car and he walks over to me, and he almost pushes me over, and he reaches down and he asks me where my mom was. And something I've had to live with for most of my life was the guilt of what I said to him. And I just said, am I going to have a new daddy? And as a young kid, you don't know what you're saying,
Right.
but you're observant.
Yeah.
I was very observant. I was a very visual child. Yeah. I didn't talk a lot, but I was very visual. And so I knew that my parents weren't together. She was with someone else and was actually in love again.
Yeah.
So even as a child, you knew she was happier.
Yeah, I could sense that she was happier. It's kind of a weird thing, at 5 years old, you don't always remember what you're feeling, but it's what I saw. Cause like I said, I'm a very visual person. And so I saw her laughing. I saw her happy. I saw her dancing. I saw her just seeming to be happy.
Right.
And she told me she loved me and all of the things, that you want as a child. But on that day, it all ended.
So what happened?
So after I said those, 8 little words of, am I going to have a new daddy? I could just see his eyes change. And they got like bloodshot and red, and he got very, very angry. And he ran yelling my mom's name into the house. And this is a little different than the movie, because in the movie we just had to tone it down. But I want to share a little bit more of following him into the house. For some reason I did. I followed him into the house and I saw him go up the steps. And I heard my mom screaming, like, get away, you shouldn't be here, get away, get away. And he went up the steps and into her room, and I heard her scream. And I remember looking up the steps and seeing him dragging her out of the bedroom and down the steps by her hair. And at the bottom of the steps, I see him pulling her hair out of her head, literally pulling her that hard. And she's trying to get away. And I just followed, and I don't know why. People ask all the time, why were you there? Why didn't you just run and hide? I don't know. I just watched. And I followed them over to the car. And I don't know why he took her over to the car, but as soon as she looked in the back seat, I heard him say, do you see what I have for you today? And she screamed, because whatever was in the back seat, she saw. And thankfully, she managed to pull away. And she ran right back towards me and literally tried to reach and grab me, but she missed as she was running so fast just to escape him. And I became frozen.
Yeah.
I literally froze. I could not move. And she's yelling for me to follow her, and I couldn't. I couldn't follow her. And I turned my attention back to my dad, and I saw him reaching into the car, and he pulled out his hunting rifle. I later found out it was a 30-06, is basically what you shoot big game with, deer and big animals, and a very lethal weapon. And so I'm like going back and forth, looking at my dad and looking at my mom, and I see my mom go in the front door, and I think she's safe. But she's worried about me, so she turns and opens the window, like the curtain at the front door, which was glass, and I can see her looking at me, like yelling for me to come. But I was in shock. I was frozen. I couldn't move. And my dad cocked the rifle, and he pointed it at that door. And the next thing I remember is just a very, very loud explosion of the gun. And I just remember like cringing and holding my eyes shut and blocking my ears so I didn't hear it. Yeah. And I looked back at the window, and my mom wasn't there. And I don't know how long it was. I kind of stood there kind of shocked. But for some reason, I walked towards the house, and I walked to the doorway, which had a bullet hole through it and some shattered glass and some blood on it. And I opened the door, and I was expecting to see my mom there, but she wasn't right there. And I kind of turned the corner and closed the door, and I could see into the living room, and I saw that she had crawled over to the living room. And she was lying on her back. And I just remember walking over to her, and this isn't portrayed in the movie. We just kind of pulled it back a little bit, but I walked up to her, and I picked up her head, and I put it in my lap, and I just got down on my knees, and I put her head in my lap. And you would think that at that moment that your mom would say, I love you, Nate, I love you. But she was so desperate for me to be safe that all she could say was, Nate, run, hide, Nate. How desperate was she at that moment, right?
Yeah.
That she was not caring about herself, that she was actually hoping that I would get away, that I wouldn't be harmed. And sadly, as I held her head and stroked her hair, I heard her take her last breath on this earth. And I don't know that I really understood that she was gone, but she wasn't responding anymore.
Yeah.
And thinking about what she just said, run, hide, just that moment, I heard the front door reopen, and I could hear my dad's cowboy boots like clomping across the wood flooring in the kitchen. And I knew he was coming in, and I didn't know why. So I just ran and hid behind that couch that I had hid behind so many times. And I hid behind there, and I kind of peeked out, and I saw him walk up to my mom. And at the same time, we both saw her body twitch a little bit. I knew that she was gone. I was pretty sure that she was gone. But I guess he really wanted to make sure she was gone. And so he pointed the gun at her head and pulled the trigger again. And I just remember just, again, closing my eyes and just kind of rocking back and forth, holding my ears shut so I couldn't hear anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was such a loud sound that it just made my ears ring and ring and ring. And you'd think, well, okay, that's the end of the story, but it's not.
Right.
My dad turned around and walked back outside. And I remember walking back past my mom, and I knew that she was gone. And I walked out onto the porch for some reason. And I again, don't know why. But I opened the door and I walked out on the porch, and I walked around the corner, and I saw my dad sitting in a chair out on the porch, and he's crying, absolutely sobbing. And he notices me, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't worried about myself. I just remember him standing up, and he walked over towards me, and he still had the gun in his hand, and he said, I'm sorry, son, but if I can't have her, no one can. And I'll never forget that. It just kind of burned into my memory. Yeah. And I didn't really even understand it all, to be honest. And
so you were right there.
Right there, standing like as close as you and I are, but he's standing up, and I'm, a little kid, so I'm just looking up at him. Yeah. And when he was finished saying that, he took the gun and he put it in his mouth, and I could see his hand reaching for the trigger, but he couldn't reach it. It was too far away. And he turned away from me. And as he turned away, he shoved the gun as far into his mouth as he could, and he was able to reach the trigger. And he pulled the trigger, and I felt his blood and his flesh and his brain, all of it, all over my face, completely covered. And it was so loud and so deafening, and I just heard this very loud thump of his body landing right next to me. And I just remember the warm on my face and not being able to see, trying to open my eyes, but I couldn't. And so I kind of wipe it so that everything's kind of blurry. And I just didn't know what to do. And what do you do in that situation, right? Like you just, you don't even know what to do. And I just, for some reason, I just went up the steps, back past my mom and up the steps and into her bedroom. And I sat on the edge of her bed. And in the distance, we heard sirens, police sirens. My neighbor had called the police because she knew something was going on. Yeah. And I don't know how long I sat on the bed, but I remember hearing footsteps coming up the steps and being scared for a second. Yeah. And then this very large policeman walks in the room, and he says, "It'll be okay. Let's get you out of here." And he takes my hand and he leads me back down the steps. And thankfully, I think, some people held up a blanket over my mom so that I wouldn't see her again. Mm-hmm. And so I walked past her, but not I knowing that she was there, and I don't think they knew that I saw everything that I saw, but they were trying to protect me from seeing her. And then I go out on the porch, and they did the same thing for my dad. And I just remember going out to the edge of the porch and sitting down, and my neighbor lady who had called the cops came over, and she picked me up. And the police said, "Hey, can you take him next door and clean him up?" And so my next memory is an interesting one. She took me over to her mudroom, and she had this metal galvanized tub, the old tubs, and she filled it with warm water and soap, and she put me in there. And she had this pitcher of water, warm water, and she just poured it over my head, and the blood that was in my hair and all of the flesh and everything that was in my hair slowly was kind of going away. But something that she did, which I never forgot, was she started to sing "This Little Light of Mine" for some reason. And it was broken because she was crying profusely. She was just crying. And she just kept pouring this water and scrubbing me and just getting all of the blood off of me. She had taken my shirt off and my pants and just cleaned me. Just trying to sing this song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And that song stuck with me. I never knew the song, but it stuck with me. And it's featured in the movie a couple of times. But yeah, that was my day. And I just remember later that day being in a family's vehicle being taken away and just looking back and seeing a house that would eventually be torn down and removed from the property, and a new house would go up 30 years later. But that was the day that literally my childhood ended.
Yeah, everything
even
changed.
at 5 years old.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Nate. I know that is not easy. That is a huge and heavy experience. I am so sorry that happened to you. And I know your story's not done. It's not like that was the day and that was
Right.
it and it ends there. It doesn't. It doesn't for you, and more trauma I know and bad things that happen, but also more healing and beautiful things to come as well. But thank you for sharing your day.
And I think that you had a moment where you were thrust into darkness.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that we have these moments in life, and some of them are very small and some of them are incredibly huge, like yours, where everything is different from that moment on.
Yeah.
And sometimes because of the trauma, it thrusts us into darkness. So from that point on, and it's very appropriate that she sang "This Little Light of Mine" because you were about to spend the next 10, 15 years in darkness.
Yeah.
What happened next? So you're a little boy. That's just we can't even comprehend. And this is the 70s. So things are different back then. As a matter of fact, even your mom getting a restraining order and him not honoring it, it's just what a different time this must have been.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if there's someone that is hearing this story, there's a woman that's hearing this story. This is a reminder to take these matters seriously.
Right.
And
Take
to
the steps that you need to get safe, to get healing, to get help.
Get out of those dangerous situations.
Absolutely.
And you probably hear from women all the time that are in situations similar to where your mom was, and they need help getting out. So we'll leave in the notes if you're a woman or a man that is in an unsafe situation. We'll leave some resources in the notes for you to be able to get help. But now we pick up with little Nate. You've been put in a car and you're being transported somewhere. You don't know where.
Right.
What comes next? I mean, is it right into therapy and care? And I mean, that's what would happen now. But what happened to you?
Well, I was kind of bounced around from family member to family member. No one knew what to do with me, right? What do you do with an orphan boy, right? I didn't come from a very wealthy background. I came from an actually poor background. And so it wasn't like my mom could just move far away and get a new place. That's why she went back and lived there. That's where she lived. But eventually my grandmother decided that the best thing for me was to take me and give me up. And I just remember driving up a long lane and her dropping me off at this big building on top of a hill, having no idea what was just about to happen, and being handed over to a lady that I never met. And there's all these other kids around, and they're looking at me funny and sad and not, and here it is, an orphanage. And my grandmother thought it was best for me to go to an orphanage and to find a new family to be part of. And I just remember her kneeling down and saying that it wasn't my fault, and that she just was too old to take care of me. And she gave me the biggest hug, and she's just sobbing and sobbing. And then she got back in her car and turned around and went back down the hill. And I just remember running after the car, going, "No, don't leave me, don't leave me." So now I'm this 5, almost 6-year-old boy who not only lost his parents, but now the rest of his family is leaving him behind.
Yeah.
Abandoned.
Literally. And now I'm at a place I have no idea where I'm at.
Yeah.
And literally the trauma hit me so hard that for the next 2 years, I didn't speak. I literally didn't speak. If someone asked me, "What do you want to eat?" I just shrugged. Or, if you're hungry, I shook my head yes. I shook my head, no, if it was no. But thankfully, I met some really cool orphans, other kids that were orphans, and they literally became my voice. They knew that I liked pizza or spaghetti, or I didn't like broccoli, and so they could literally become my voice for the next 2 years.
When you say didn't speak, like you're not talking like speak a little.
None, not a word came out of my mouth. Other than grunts, maybe a cry, maybe a laughter at times. But I did not physically say a word, or like I didn't speak a word.
Is this have you learned later, like, is this a normal response?
I've heard of it, only a few other cases of some kids that have done that were non-speakers.
Well, it's amazing what trauma will do.
Yes.
When you go through trauma, your body reacts in ways that your mind can't comprehend.
Yeah.
Your body has memories of things.
Yep.
And fight or flight kicks in, especially when you're in such a traumatic experience. Things in your brain shut down.
Right.
And put you in that freeze where you couldn't run when your mom was telling you to run, where you couldn't speak when you wanted to. Like, it's amazing what your body does and your brain does for protection, that's why you don't have a lot of memories from your early childhood.
Right.
Our traumatic experience, it changes our brain chemistry. It's wild and amazing. And just everything that you're saying and have said so far, honestly, it just hit so close to home for me, because my story is very similar. I had a day when everything in my world changed too. When I went through trauma and abuse, emotional, physical, sexual, all of that, and also had the moment where somebody I loved, and I watched them take their life in the same fashion you watched your dad. I had to watch my first husband do that, where I was abandoned and everyone was removed from me, where my stepdaughter was taken into foster care and thrown in the system and had not great experiences. And the moments that you said that your mom was just pleading for you to be safe and didn't have the moment to say, "I love you so much. Right. Here's my gentle, sweet goodbyes." I felt that too, where I was pleading for my husband to live, pleading for him to not do what I knew he was going to do when he had the 9mm in his hand. Until he gave up. I was literally on top of him fighting to remove the gun from him, doing everything I could. But all I could say was, "Please, no, I need you, please, no." I wish I could have said, "I love you so much." And I don't even know what I wish I could have said, but I wish I would have said, "I loved you." But the last thing he said to me was, "I love you and I always have." And then he put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. And I was hit by the bullet that left his body. And that's when it all changed, right? The darkness you're thrust in, when you have to be cleaned up and the police
Right.
have to come, and your whole life has shifted. And it's not like it's easy peaches and rainbows before that, because obviously something leads to those moments. Mental health leads to those moments.
Right.
Devastation, destruction, pain, trauma leads to those moments. People don't wake up one day and just say, you know what I think I'm going to do today? I think I'm going to end it all. Or like it's not a healthy response, right? But these moments happen. But what's great is that it doesn't need to end there.
Correct.
And even though the darkness is so real and we get thrown into it in the middle of all of that pain, we need people to fight for us.
Yes.
And we need to fight hard to get through it and out of it to find the light. And so what a beautiful song that your neighbor sang to you, This Little Light of Mine.
Right.
It's like she knew that you needed light in your life when we don't even realize it, right? It's crazy. It's crazy.
I think you both are a good reminder that we don't know anyone's story until we've actually sat down to listen. Nate, if I saw you on the road, I'd think nothing. Like you look and act just like everyone else. You don't wear a badge that says I've experienced excruciating trauma.
Right.
You don't wear a badge that says, my first husband, this is what they did.
Yeah.
That no one can know. And I think until you sit down, I heard this quote, like, you can't hate anyone after sitting down and listening to their story for an hour.
Yeah.
And this is just a reminder that like everyone has a story, and now not all of them are as traumatic as both of yours, but every single person that we know has moments in their life that they point to and go like, that's when things changed, or that was the darkest moment of my life, and like if we have a little empathy and a little time to hear, we can suddenly understand a little more.
Right. Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now let's revisit your story. We pick up and you're in the orphanage. Are you getting support in the orphanage for you're not speaking, so clearly you are in the middle of excruciating mental trauma.
Yeah.
You're not talking. Do a fleet of counselors come in and what happens?
Yeah. So the orphanage treated me very well. Right. They took care of my basic
So this is
needs.
not like Little Orphan Annie. This is a really loving place that,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But they would, I would go and spend sessions with a mental health specialist or someone, a therapist to help, because the concern was this kid's not talking. He needs to be going to school. Yeah. He needs to be learning and all of this stuff. So let's
get him back on the road.
Let's get him back.
That's great that they had that.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that the therapist would pull me in, and all he wanted me to do was say one word, like just, what is your name? And just say Nate, but they even bribed me with a candy bar. Like,
really?
You can have this candy, because as a kid, right? You love candy. You're going to do anything for candy, right?
I don't blame him. I think I'd be like,
to this day, he would do
you get so frustrated. You'd be like, do you want a Tesla? And I'd be like, what do you want? Just talk to me.
Right. And but I didn't. I had nothing to say. I was completely lost. And in some ways, even if I wanted to talk, I couldn't. Something was holding that back, and that's trauma.
yeah.
And that's how my body dealt with it. Yeah. I find even today, as if a tough situation comes up, there's parts of me that kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened to me. I literally shut down. And it was about 2 years that I didn't speak. And during that time, I met a couple of really cool other kids that were at the orphanage. And, sadly at the orphanage, this kid gets adopted and you were best friends, but now you'll never see them again. And so they leave you. And so I just had this whole thing.
One of these things, Nate, would have sent me into permanent trauma. Like
Right.
people losing a friend that was like a
That
safety.
just moved away. Right.
Yeah. And you see them in the back car waving at you as they're leaving with their new family, but no one picked you because you're not speaking. And so you must have these problems.
I didn't even think about that. So so families would come see cute little Nate.
Yep.
They'd say, "What's your favorite color?"
And I wouldn't say a word. And so they wouldn't adopt. But then I I don't share this often, but I did have another orphan. I won't even go into the details, but this one really became my closest and dearest friend. And then they got adopted. And I remember as they were leaving, was the first time I spoke. And again, I said the same thing I said to my mom, don't leave me. And that's when I first started speaking again, was I just didn't want her to leave. And I knew if I said something, maybe that would get her back, but it didn't. And so I spent another year or two there, and kids came and went. And you kind of learn not to be friends with them too close because,
to protect your heart.
you're protecting, like, most kids have their best friends, but like I had friends, but they weren't my close friends. I didn't,
well, if they're
I didn't give them everything because if you give them everything and then they leave you again.
So you started self-preserving.
Yes.
Oh, that makes
And
me
that's
sad.
like sad at 7 years old, 8 years old. You're
gosh.
like, again, and at the orphanage, we didn't really celebrate birthdays and Christmases and, other than you got a card and maybe a pair of underwear, and a pair of socks or something, so that you had clothes. But it was never really Christmas. It was never really, it was like, happy birthday, Nate, and then just moving on. Because their role is just to raise you and get you adopted, and sadly, I was adopted. And I say sadly.
Yeah.
I say sadly because not all adoptions go well. I was adopted by a couple that just wanted the money, just needed the money.
Oh, no.
And literally the day they got me home, they both sat me down and said, we're not your parents. You're never going to call us mom and dad. And we're never going to love you like we love our own children.
Oh my God.
And I didn't really understand all of that. But they provided a home. They provided the food and the clothes, but it wasn't much more than that. They treated their own kids better than they treated me. And so that was hard to take when you saw them getting new, nice things. And when your birthday came around, it was happy birthday.
Right.
No cake, no gifts.
You weren't
no
family,
Christmas.
you were...
Yeah, no, I was just a form of
paycheck.
income. And sadly, the foster care system has a lot of issues like that. And it's, I don't want to, blame and say that the foster care system is broken, because there's a tremendous amount of amazing stories of kids who've been put in families who have loved them as their own.
But people are broken.
yeah.
And people are a part of everything, right? So
Right.
yeah.
But for me, the experience was bad. And so basically I was put back into a foster care system,
Okay.
a group home, and moved from foster home to foster home to foster home to foster home to foster home until I was 16 years old. And just, I was never given a toothbrush to brush my teeth.
What?
I think that was the hard thing. Like, I never brushed my teeth. I was never given the necessities that, I was never taught how to brush my teeth. Like, you think, well, isn't that just something every parent teaches? Well, they don't.
No.
I never had a toothbrush growing up. I didn't eat properly, was given very, very little amounts of food. Even as, you're 12 and 13-year-old boy, you need to start eating and you want to eat, and you're giving very little, like a half a sandwich is all you eat all day, and so I tried to use the foster families as a means of just surviving.
Sure.
Knowing that I wasn't loved, knowing that I wasn't taken care of. One foster family told me I was useless, I was worthless, I was a little orphan boy who would never amount to anything, and that I was lucky to have them, that I would be nowhere without them. And so growing up, not being loved, not being told that I love you, not being told that I support you. I want you to get involved in sports. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I had shoes that didn't fit. They were too tight, and I had to wear them till they were basically run down. And so it was a very hard teenage years of being just not loved. And so you think I'm unlovable. In your mind, you think I'm unlovable. I'm not worthy. I'm not acceptable. There must be something so wrong with me that and then I would hear my friends saying, gosh, I hate my mom. She won't let me go to this party. Right. And I'm like, I was so mad at them. Like, you have parents,
really?
And they actually care about you.
Right.
Why
you have
are
a toothbrush. Even the littlest things. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
And so when I was 15, I started working at a Wendy's, flipping burgers. And I did a really good job, and I worked as much as I could. I went to school during the day, but I worked every night. I worked every Saturday. I worked every Sunday for as long as I could, and I saved $3,000. And the day I turned 16, I bought the worst car I could have bought, but I bought it anyway because it was cool.
What was it?
A 1970 Camaro.
Nice.
I think there's some people listening that would argue that's not the worst car.
Well, the worst car in my situation, because at 16, I bought that car, and at 16, I ran away. And I had a little bit of money, but not very much. But I think the saddest part of running away at age 16 was that no one ever came looking for me. My foster parents at the time never reported that I ran away, never told the school that I was no longer living there, never called the police. They just ignored it as if, well,
they kind of
he'll
expected
figure it out.
Wow.
And so I'm living in my car for the next 2 years. I'm living in this Camaro.
It blows my mind that your life is possible. Like, right? Like that.
But certainly, yeah.
Like that this could happen to people, that it does happen to people. It happened to you. Like, it hurts my heart so bad to think of every child, every person who has gone through even a fraction of what you have been through is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. And it just makes me, like, gosh, admire you so much and incredibly proud of the man that we don't even know each other that well. But what we do know, I am so stinking proud of you for the way you came through such an environment that just proved time and time again was against you.
Right.
And every person left you and abandoned you. And of course, you're going to self-preserve. Of course, you're going to fight to survive. Like, of course, that's the narrative you've built for yourself, because that what was built into you.
But now we're on a knife's edge.
Yeah.
Where this story is at right now, we are on a knife's edge because you are living in your car, which, by the way, good for you for the Camaro. Like, seriously. Like,
It's a cool car.
But it only got 10 miles to the gallon. And I soon found myself siphoning gas from other people's cars.
You stole gas.
I stole gas. You have to get places, right?
With the hose. And
yeah.
So
I still feel bad for some of the businesses.
I think they forgive you.
Yeah.
Once they see the movie, they'll be like,
I did actually
at
one point go back to all the businesses
Really?
and apologize, and they were very forgiving.
Did anyone be like, okay, how much was it?
No. None of them even realized I took it. So.
Wow.
So Nate, you're living in your car, which is just unthinkable. Yeah. Do teachers know?
No. So here's the crazy thing. So first of all, I had friends at school. And so I would, at times, especially on the weekends, stay with friends. So it wasn't like I lived in my car every night for 2 years. I did have friends, and I would use it as, I would stay there as long as I could until they kind of were like, hey, shouldn't you go home? Like, hey, can we call your parents to come pick you up? And I always would like leave that situation because I didn't want to get caught.
Right.
I didn't want to get caught because where do I go? I go back to that foster home, right? Sadly, I ran away hoping that they would actually care enough. Like, I was thinking, well, they're going to care. They're going to come looking, but they didn't. Wow. And after like a month, you're like, okay. And then I was worried because school was just about ready to start. And I was like, are they going to call the school? Am I going to be able to go to school? I really wanted to go to school because I was in track in 11th grade and in football. And in order to do that, you had to go to school. So I came up with a plan of I'm going to deceive everybody. No one's going to know, not even my friends, not my girlfriends. I'm not telling anybody my situation, because if I do, they put me back in foster care, and that's the last place I wanted to go. And so I went and I spoke to my coach, my track coach at Garden Spot High School. And I said, hey, listen, I love running. I'm so dedicated. I'm going to run every morning. I'm going to run like 5 miles every morning before school so that, I'll be better than everyone else. And he's like, oh man, he thought that was a great idea. Right. So really, I mean, I did want to run, but I went because then I could go in and use the school shower. And back then they had this washer and dryer in the back room, and I was able to wash my clothes secretly. Yeah. And here this coach would always be like, man, you're amazing. This is great. And it did work because I was really good at track and I actually won a lot, which is featured in the movie too. But and so I was deceiving my coaches. I was deceiving my teachers and my friends and my girlfriends. And no one really knew that I was living in my car at various places around New Holland.
Oh, yeah. And it's a little town. So this can happen in a town near you. This can, like, kids fall through the cracks. Yeah. That's what I would say is you fell through the cracks. And even teachers either didn't know or didn't want to know. And
or you deceived them so well that they couldn't tell.
Well, you would think that if, this kid's going from A's and B's and C's to D's and F's, that there's something wrong, and maybe you should question that child.
That's a good question. What would you say, Nate, is if a teacher is like, how could I have missed this? Right. What would you say to a teacher that's listening right now? Like, what are the signs?
I sat in the back of the classroom. I never raised my hand. I was quiet. I didn't do my homework because when do you have time to do your homework in your Camaro late at night, right? Yeah, like I tried, surviving, but I'm just trying to survive. I'm trying to get that next meal, right? Because I soon ran out of money. It was hard for me to go work again because I was living in New Holland and the Wendy's was actually over in Ephrata. And so just to drive over there cost gas money. And I eventually lost my job there. And really it was just about surviving, not working. I wanted to get through school so it was just one thing after another, like just trying to make it.
So, but then your story hits a critical moment.
Yeah. So that summer after I ran away, I started by siphoning gas, just to have gas in the car. But I needed money. I needed to find ways to make money. And sadly, I was not part of the good kids in school or, sometimes when you're in these situations, the only kids that are out there are kids like you. Yeah. And they're struggling and they're trying to find their way in life. And I ran into a group of kids that weren't the best. And I learned to smoke with them and I started doing drugs and drinking on weekends in New Holland, right? Yeah, Can you believe it, right here in this little town of New Holland? Yeah. But that's what we did to survive. I used it as a way to try to not have to think about life. Because when I was high, it felt good. Yeah.
So at a young age, you self-medicated. I get
self-medicated,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. Numb the pain.
And drank until I would pass out and, be on a binge for days just to try to kind of hide the hurt. And I was hurting. I was really hurting. I didn't know how to have a girlfriend. I had several girlfriends that I didn't even know what love was. I didn't know how to tell them I loved them or like treat them. And so I broke up with them before they could break up with me if I ever heard that they were going to break up with me because I didn't want to be left again. So I'd break up with them before just so that, I made them feel bad instead of me having to feel bad. Yeah. During that time we got in trouble. And one night we were really, really high and decided to rob a store, try to get some VCRs. VCRs were the new thing back then. They were $2,000. They were really expensive. I wouldn't understand that. The younger generation wouldn't understand that. But they were very, very expensive.
What's a VCR?
And so we stole a lot of that kind of stuff and sold it for $300 or $200, and tried to make some money. But someone saw us. And I just remember going to school one day and I was in photography class and in the dark room developing some film. And yes, that's another thing that most kids don't know about, but back then it was film and you had to develop it and process it and print it. And I was actually very good at it and loved it. And I just remember being in class and someone just opening the door and light coming in and ruining everyone's work.
So in front of everyone.
In front of everyone, in front of my girlfriend in class. I was arrested. And then we were at the far end of the building. And so they marched me down the long hallway in front of everyone in the school. Wow. Hands behind my back with, in handcuffs. 4 police officers. Putting me in the police car and everybody's watching. But there was one person that was watching that had empathy, and he watched the whole time until I got in the car and left. And that was a teacher, Mr. Deen. And I had only recently had him in class for the first time. It was a time I had not eaten for 3 days. And I was really, really hungry. I was so exhausted and so weak that I couldn't even run track that morning. And I sat through several classes and the teachers didn't seem to notice. I just sat in the back and didn't say anything and the teachers didn't care. They just ignored me because that was the easy thing to do. And I just remember just being so exhausted and walking into Mr. Deen's class. I walked in and he happened to be in there and I was the first kid in. And all I wanted to do was put my head down on my desk and just rest until class started. Mr. Deen saw me and he could see how skinny I was. And I just looked exhausted and he felt like he needed to do something. And in his briefcase, he had a actually much bigger Hershey bar than this, but he had a Hershey candy bar that he was definitely going to eat later that day. It was for him. It was not for anyone else. But for some reason, he decided that he wanted to give me that candy bar. And he felt like just giving me the candy bar, I might not take it, because of that pride thing, right? Yeah. So he came up with this stupid, crazy, weird, unique way. And he walked over to me with that candy bar and he said, Nate, on behalf of the Spartan Social Committee, and by the way, there is no Spartan Social Committee, I'm awarding you this Hershey bar. And so he gave me that Hershey bar. And I was so hungry. And I was like, really? What? Like, that's it? Like
that looked like filet mignon to you.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're just going to give it to me and you're not going to want anything in return? Really? Like, that's amazing. And I just remember opening that candy bar and I ate that candy bar so fast. And it was the best candy bar I ever ate. But you know what's important is that, it's the only thing he had at that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And he gave it to me, right? Little did I know, like the next couple of days, I would find these little tokens for free lunches that they gave the poorer kids in the school. They would give them tokens. And I found a couple of tokens on my desk that were from him so that I got some lunches because he cared.
So first thing was he looked and he saw and he paid attention.
Right.
And he used what he had.
Yes. Right. That small act of kindness was so important. And I didn't realize it at the time because, it's just a candy bar. Right. But that was the planting of the seed of hope in my life.
It was
Didn't know it at that time.
Flicker of light.
A flicker of light. Wow. A ray of sunshine shine on my face. Wow.
So,
but a couple of days later, I'm arrested, and Stan sees me. And now I'm at the Lancaster County Prison, which looks like a castle, but it is not a castle.
Yeah. Cool
and
castle.
It's not a place you have on your bucket list to go see.
I'm one of those people that even driving past it, I'm like, I don't like it.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty nasty place. It's a place you don't want to be, especially at 17, 18 years old. And
you're in there with hardened criminals.
Yeah. And, but I knew I did wrong. I knew that I had to pay those consequences. I thought that I'd be sent back to the foster care system or put,
What's it like? What is it like going into the jail? Like, what is that first hour, 2 hours?
It's awful because they take your dignity from you. And some people say, well, you don't deserve any because you did bad. So, but they literally take your dignity. They take all of your clothes. They strip you down completely. They, do a strip search. I mean, it's just unpleasant. And they put you in an orange jumpsuit, and that's your outfit while you're there. I just remember them walking into the room saying, you stole all this stuff. We found it in your car. Like, did you do it? And they said, hey, you can make one phone call, right? So like, you could probably get bail and get out and, whatever. And I just remember looking at the police officer saying, I don't have anyone to call. I'm stuck here. I'm done. What am I going to do? And I just remember,
have anyone to call.
I don't have anyone to call.
I can't even fathom that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and I remember like when I was sitting in the cell, the guard came over and he said, Nate, you have a visitor. And I was like, a visitor? Who would come visit me? Why? Yeah. And I'm like, nah, I'm not interested. Like, I don't care. And my cellmate like kicked my bed and he's like, dude, you can get out of the cell for like 2 hours. Just go, just do it anyway. And I was so glad that he did that because I walked into this room that had plexiglass and telephones, and across through the plexiglass, I saw my teacher, Mr. Deen.
I can't believe that.
I can't
because if I'm Stan Deen at this moment, I'm like, well, that's a dang shame. I'm gonna have to reorganize my class.
Yeah.
But he came to visit you in the prison. That's
yes.
Okay.
Yes. He actually, like, we pick up the phone and the first thing out of my mouth is, Mr. Deen, are you here to yell at me? Because that's what everyone did to me when I made mistakes. Right. Everyone yelled at me and said, oh, you're just a loser, here you go again, this is expected. And he said, no, Nate. He said, you don't deserve to be here. You did some wrong things, but you don't deserve to be here. Wow. I'm here to help you. I want to get you out. And I was like, there's no way you're getting me out. I have a huge bail and, he's a teacher, didn't have a lot of money, but he went and found a way to get me out.
How?
And that was pretty cool. He actually found my grandmother, my grandparents, the same people that dropped me off at the orphanage. He was able to find them, and they came and paid my bail and took me to their house, and I went back to live with them.
Wow. Didn't last though?
No, and that's another amazing part of the story, because Stan, being a teacher, he got a lot of slack from the administration and from other teachers. He had a few that supported him, but they said, "Man, why are you trying to help this kid? He's going to hurt you. He's going to steal from you. He's going to, you're going to get fired. They're going to lose your job from this."
Because they think, there's something nefarious.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, they just felt like, just let the system take care of him. Yeah. Like send them back to foster.
Take care of
let the system take care of him. And, but he said, no, he just felt very compelled to go and visit me at this prison.
What a risk he took.
Yeah.
He took a big risk.
If it was true, if he actually could lose his job, if all of that was a real potential, what a huge risk that he cared that much to say, I don't care. That doesn't matter as much as this person in front of me matters.
That's exactly right.
What a beautiful thing.
He didn't care. He said, I'm doing what's right because no one else will.
Yeah.
So he's brave in the dark to come visit.
Absolutely. Yeah. He had to brave the dark because there was a lot of people questioning him.
Right.
And even saying, hey, you could lose your job here. But he was well loved at the school. They knew he helped a lot of students, but this was on a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's different.
A whole nother level. And it was really, really good. So so now I'm living with my grandparents and working hard on the farm, right? And this isn't something I should be doing. Like I need to graduate. I need to be going to school. I wanted to run track and I'm missing it all. And little did I know, Stan came and visited me again at my grandparents' house.
See, like this is where, I see all the off ramps Chad would have taken in this story. I would have been like, Here's my badge. Here's my, medal for getting you to your grandparents' house. That's it. But sometimes caring for people isn't just about caring for them in the moment they need it, but it's the aftercare, the checking
the
in.
long-term
It's the
care.
next steps. It's continual stepping into action, into love, not just giving up after the first thing and saying, I'm good. I did a really great job and I gave you a candy
And
bar.
no one would blame them for that.
sure.
That's great.
Absolutely.
But this is something different.
Yeah,
so
he didn't,
comes to
he
visit
didn't-
you.
Yeah, so he comes to visit me and says, we've got to get you back in school. And my grandmother's like, why? Like, what's the purpose of that? And he's like, you have to show the judge that you're no longer that person that's stealing and doing bad things. You need to get back to school. You need to graduate and stop doing the stupid stuff, or you're going to end up in a very bad place. And that was pretty amazing. But I didn't accept his offer right away because, well, there was no real plan. Like, how do I get back in school? I don't understand. But as he left, he gave me his phone number. And I remember like 2 weeks later, I called that number. And that was the decision that I had to make, that I didn't want that life anymore.
Right.
So not only is Stan helping me, I had to make a decision that I was going to put all of that stuff behind me and that I was willing to change. And I think that's how people change. People always say, people don't change. You can't change people. Well, I'm proof that you can change. I went from a horrible, kid who went through a ton of things, who did a lot of bad things, and within a couple of years got my life on the right track. Because I decided I wanted to change.
Yeah, it took you making that decision and putting in the hard work.
Yes.
I think a lot of times people want to change. It's like, well, I want my life to be different, but they're not willing to do anything about it.
Correct.
Because it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to turn your life around or to heal and to handle the plate that you've been given. But it takes hard work, and we need help. It's not like we can just blame everyone else and say, okay, well, nobody helped me, so what am I going to do?
Right.
It's like, well, no, you need to work hard for it. And yes, we need the help of others as well. Yeah. We can't do it alone.
Yeah, victim mentality can be a quicksand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's you slowly watch yourself sink. You might not have put yourself in there, but you just slowly accept your fate.
Right.
Yeah, I don't consider myself a victim or a survivor. Like I was given a life and I've lived that life and I'm doing the best that I can with that life. Yeah. But I never claim to be a victim. I don't go, at that time I was, woe is me, the world owes me. Why God? Why God? I hated God at the time, actually. I blamed him for all of that stuff. Yeah. But that's when the healing began, when Stan said, I'm going to come pick you up. You're going to stay with me for the weekend.
So it started with a weekend?
Right. Yeah. Because there was nowhere for me to go. Because I told him, Stan, if you take me to where I should go, I'm going to get lost in the system. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't explain all the reasons why I didn't want to go there, but he knew that that was important to me. And so he said, hey, come sleep on my couch. That's what he had to offer. And so I slept on his couch for 3 days and then went to school every day. Went back to school. He signed me back in. I remember just walking down the hallway and everybody looking at me like, oh, there's that kid, there's that convict, there's that bad kid. But I knew that I needed to change because I wanted better for my life. And here was somebody that cared enough to get me involved.
I think there's someone that needs to hear that, Nate, is that there is change possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
People want change. Because I know compassion fatigue is a big thing in our world right now, where it's like no one changes and don't bother. Right. It's a lost cause. They're a lost hope, and you're saying don't give up.
Yeah, no, there was many times that Stan could have given up. I pushed Stan in ways that he had never been pushed before because I needed to know that I could trust him. Yeah. I did things on purpose to make him mad to see if he was going to leave me, and he didn't.
Wow.
Nate, could you tell us a little bit about there's a scene in the movie, it's my favorite scene, and I'm just dying to know how true it is, Christmas morning. So you got Stan. This is your first Christmas with Stan. And from what I'm hearing, maybe your first real Christmas. Tell us a little bit about that first Christmas.
Yeah. So our first Christmas together was very awkward at first. I remember coming into the living room and seeing the tree and literally like 50 gifts under the tree. And I'm like, what is that? Stan, who are all those gifts for? And he looked at me, he said, they're all yours. And I went, wait, what are you talking about? Like, I've never really gotten Christmas presents. And I'm like, and so he's like checking each one. He's like, yours, 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 yours. And by this time I was able to I had a grasp of how to handle trauma, but I had no clue how to be loved. For someone who hadn't been loved his whole life, like, I didn't understand it. Like, wait, you got all of that for me? Yeah. All for me? Like, what do you want? Like, what is your game?
Yeah,
like,
there's
I'm trying to figure out, like, are you trying to buy my love?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I couldn't understand it. And in my life, I ran from everything. I ran from my problems. I used drugs to get away. Like, I didn't step up and take those challenges head on and face them. I ran. And what do? I grab my jacket and I run. And Stan's like, what did I just do? Like, what happened? Like, this is supposed to be Christmas. It's like the most joyous time of the year. Yeah. But for me, I didn't know how to accept it. And so I ran, and Stan came chasing me. And we had this amazing conversation, which is in the movie, so I'm not going to give that away. But this amazing conversation, you know, like, why did you do all of this? And you find out that Stan lost his mom, and that's what they did. Like, Christmas was a huge thing for them. They celebrated. They had a tree in every room, and like, they just loved Christmas. And so she doted on him and got him so many gifts, and he had no one to give gifts to that year, so he was going to give them to me. And so we go back to the house and we sit down, and I just told him how thankful I was, you know, at that time when he gave me that Hershey bar, that, you know, I go through that story of like how much it meant to me that he gave it to me, not wanting anything in return. And then I just started opening gifts, and there were so many gifts, and they were weird gifts. They were
Like
all
what?
like,
What was weird?
They were like toys for a 7 or 8 year old, and like all these weird things that a 12-year-old should get.
Wow.
I was like, what is going on? And Stan said, I want you to have the presents that you should have had as a 6-year-old boy, as an 8-year-old boy, as a 10-year-old boy, as a 20, you know, all of those things. Yeah. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow.
How is it like a healing,
yes.
like redeeming those years?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
my gosh, I got chills.
Like, you deserved this, Nate.
Wow.
You deserved being loved. You deserved that. Because I didn't think I ever deserved anything. Right. So that was that kind of beginning of like learning that I mattered to somebody, that I deserved love, that I deserved goodness in my life. And it was funny because I didn't get him anything, and I didn't even know how to, and he's like, oh, you did. And he hands me a gift like, wait, I didn't get this, but and it's this really fun, amazing part of the movie. Yeah. And like, I give it to him, and it's something he bought himself, but in honor of me, it was just a fun thing. But you even notice, like, when I give him the gift, I'm like, here, take it. And he's like, Merry Christmas, Stan. Yeah. Like there's a way to do it. Like, I didn't even know how to celebrate Christmas.
Something we take for granted.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of kids just take for granted. But that was like the most special Christmas of my entire life. And it was just amazing day. And he got me a camera that cost him a lot of money that he probably didn't have. But I was able to use that camera to go back to school, to finish school, to take a lot of really amazing photos of him teaching, of him directing. And I still have that camera to this day.
That's
And
amazing.
it's actually here at the museum on display. So,
cool.
yeah, I kept
Speaking-
a lot of those gifts.
Speaking of in the museum, there's something you got to explain to me. There's a cake here. Now, there was nothing in the movie about a cake.
Yeah.
There's a cake that says Happy Day Cake or what?
Happy
Yeah.
Can you please just, maybe in a few words, like explain what the cake is here for?
Yeah. So I love this. This was in the original script. We ended up cutting it because it was either Christmas or the cake scene. It was just like, it was more important for that cake scene. But again, growing up, not really celebrating, I woke up on the day of my birthday, 18th birthday, and Stan was so excited. I could just see excitement in his face, and he's like, "Happy birthday!" And he actually would sing "Happy Birthday" to me, and it was awkward, and I didn't understand it. I miss it today, though. But I just remember being miserable that day. Birthdays were always miserable for me, and mentally, I just wasn't wanting to deal with it. And I just said, "Stan, I don't want to celebrate my birthday. I don't want a cake. I don't want you to sing anymore. I don't want a party. I don't even want to celebrate it. I just want you to forget about it, just move on." But little did I know that Stan had gone to Yoder's Country Market, and they have a bakery right up here in New Holland, and he bought this huge cake that said "Happy Birthday, Nate" on it. And it was pretty cool design on it and whatnot. And at first he panicked. He's like, "Wait a minute, I've already got this stuff," and he doesn't want any of this stuff. And he knew I didn't want it. I was pretty mad. I didn't want to celebrate my birthday. And so I go to school, and we come back, and we eat dinner. And then all of a sudden he disappears into the kitchen, and all of a sudden the lights go out, and all of a sudden I see the glow of candles entering the room and this big cake. I'm like, and I literally yelled at Stan. And I was like, "Stan, I told you, I don't want to celebrate my birthday, and I don't want that stupid cake." I may have used other language, but I don't want that cake. And he didn't stop. He just came over, and he placed it down in front of me. And I said, "Stan, come on, I told you. I don't want it. I'm leaving." And he just kind of gently pushed my shoulders down. And I looked down at the cake, and I was like, "What?" It just said, "Happy Day, Nate."
So he wasn't celebrating your
He
birthday.
literally took the cake back to Yoder's and had them change it to Happy Day. Now, most parents would say, "Eat the damn cake, right? Eat the damn cake. You're going to eat it. I don't care. You're eating the cake. We're celebrating. I don't care." But he took it back, had them just put Happy Day, Nate. And I looked up at him and I said, "You are the weirdest person I have ever met." And in all seriousness, he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "Nate, I just want you to be happy today." And can I tell you, the rest of that night was amazing. Wow. We had the most amazing talk that night. We laughed more than we had ever laughed. He brought laughter back into my life. And we just talked, and it was literally one of the best birthdays I've ever had. It was so cool.
What an incredible man.
Right?
My gosh, the intentionality behind the things that he did that might have been small acts, but were huge. Huge. Were so monumental and meaningful. To get you a Christmas gift for every year of your life that you missed, who thinks of that?
Right.
But how special.
Yeah.
Knowing that you didn't want your birthday celebrated, so he said "Happy Day." Like, what the heck?
Yep.
What a beautiful, ferocious act of love.
Yeah. He learned, he wasn't a father. He had never gotten married. He wasn't a father. But I became the son he never had.
Yeah.
And he became the father I so desperately needed.
Yeah.
Literally in those moments.
So where did Stan get this centered, love that he exuded to you? Like, what was his faith? Because there's got to be something there. I mean, this irrational level of kindness and compassion.
Yeah. Like outrageous love of another kind is what this is. Yeah.
Did faith play a part in Stan's life?
Yeah, absolutely. Stan was who he was because of his mother. His mother doted on him, loved on him. All the things when he was a child, he heard, "Oh, you're special, Stan. You're a wonderful kid. You're going places. We're behind you 100%. I believe in you, Stan." I didn't hear any of that. right? And he passed that on to me. He passed that on to his other students. But he was also a strong believer. He never forced Jesus on me, which I'm so thankful for, because remember, I blamed God for all of this.
Right.
But he showed me by his example, the way he lived every day, the way he went out and spoke on Sunday mornings, telling his successes and his failures in life to churches, inspiring them to give back. And I just remember one day he's like, hey, you don't have to go to church with me, but I'm speaking somewhere to a bunch of young kids. I'd love for you to come because I want to share a little bit of our story. I was like, okay, I'll go along. And again, that was, again, just planting that seed of like showing me that there are better things out there in this world. And that I wasn't to blame God, but to know that God was there during all of those hard times for me. And that he had a better purpose, a bigger purpose for me.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Huge.
Nate, that's incredible. So we now fast forward. So like what happened? Like what happened from the moment, like you get into high school, you eventually, I guess you graduated.
Yes.
Thank you, Stan.
Yes. Thank you, Stan.
We then, we go into adult life. Do you stay in touch? Do you just bounce and leave? And what's adult life like after life with Stan,
Yeah. Well, I think what people need to remember is that healing doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's like, oh, it's so nice. He goes back to the orphanage and he gives gifts and life is wonderful, right? And it was.
Didn't happen that way.
But it's so much more. And to be honest with you, 30, 40 years later, I'm still healing.
Yes.
I'm still trying to be that better person. I'm still have bad days, right? Healing isn't happen overnight, but you keep at it. And you don't let the past pull you back. You don't let those bad mistakes that you made hold you down.
Yeah.
You serve your time, you do the things that you need to do. I paid my restitution back to the courts. I paid for all of the things that I did. I served my time, and then I moved on.
Yeah.
And Stan was a very big part of that. And we stayed friends for the next 30 years until he passed away in 2016.
So, and he, for all intents and purposes, Stan was your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stan wasn't just a little light of mine. He was a blazing torch for me. He just shined in ways. He showed me that, we had conversations about drugs and why I did drugs. And he'd be always like, well, how's that going for you? Like you say it's going to take away the pain temporarily, but then you got to do it again. You got to, literally I quit cold turkey. I quit everything. I left those friends behind. I quit drugs. I quit smoking, and you just move forward and know that it's not easy. But what I think I love most about what Stan did is he started small, right? Giving that gift. And he gave me a place to live. He gave me security. He gave me clothing. He gave me food. But then he created a community around me. And I think that's what we forget, that by getting me involved in Garden Spot Performing Arts, right? Now I was hanging around with kids that were good kids, right? Who were going to college and who were smart. And I learned a whole new trade. In fact, that's what I did for the next 30 years. I got involved in theater. So creating that community around me was so, so important, because that community also then supported Stan through it all too, during all of that.
So, I mean, God says that we need that community.
Right.
And,
Yes.
and that your healing came not just through Stan, but through everyone.
Yes,
So,
correct.
And continues to.
Absolutely.
Nate, when Stan passed, was that triggering for you? I mean, because God used Stan as kind of your compass. What happened when Stan passed?
Yeah, Stan taught me to be brave. He taught me to be strong. But the one thing he didn't do was help me figure out how to get by without him. Because now I've lost the best thing in my life, really, at that time. And it was hard, and it was triggering, actually. I'll never forget the day I got the call. He was supposed to be directing at Kavad Academy in New Holland. And he had been at rehearsal the night before and was supposed to show up the next day. And so I get a frantic call, like, hey, you need to run to his house. We can't find Stan. He's not responding, which was very rare for him. And I remember leaving a very important meeting at work and driving down Route 30 towards his house, talking to my wife on the phone. And all of a sudden I couldn't talk. I went back into that tragedy of of not being able to talk, and my voice went silent. And I could not respond to my wife. And she said, just get here when you can, slow down, just get here. And I just remember being so frozen and getting to his house and going in up the steps and looking into the living room and seeing him sitting in his chair, knowing that he had passed. But what was amazing about that moment was that I knew that he didn't suffer, that he went the way he wanted to go, in his sleep. Yeah. His phone was right there, so I knew if he had any pain, he would have been able to grab the phone. But he looked like he had just fallen asleep and never woke up. And that kind of just, all of a sudden, just that took away that not being able to speak. Yeah. And I remember talking to the paramedics and things that were there and sharing my story and how much Stan meant to me. And they were just all blown away with this story that I was able to actually tell in that moment. But that was a really, really hard moment for us. And just 2 years later, I decided that I needed to honor Stan in a way that he had, I think, always wanted, and that was to change my name to Deen. And so I changed my name to Deen legally and got to share my story again in the courtroom in front of a lot of people who were waiting for their cases. I got to share my story, and everyone was so happy, and they applauded at the end. And the judge said, it is an honor to allow you to change your name to Deen. And so that was a very proud moment. And so I'm just so honored to carry his name forward. Yeah. But it's also awkward because I remember the first time someone called me Mr. Deen, and I was almost offended. I'm not Mr. Deen. You can't call me Mr. Deen. He's the only Mr. Dean. Yeah. But now I'm taking his legacy. Yes. And now I'm going to share all that I can the way that he shared it with me. But I'm going to share it with as many kids in this country as I can.
And in the way that only you can.
And in the way,
voice, for your perspective, through your life experience, which will be different than his. Correct. But no less. Yeah. In a unique and beautiful and maybe even greater way. And how awesome that his story, his legacy that he left is incredible. You get to carry that on. But you're building your own in incredible ways because of his and how he left it. And the thousands of people, countless people's lives that you will get to touch because you are being brave and bold, sharing your story, because you braved the light, and now you're willing to brave the darkness again and again and again for so many people in need is just truly incredible. Truly incredible.
So now, fast forward, and you've written a screenplay, and you're telling the story, and it's become a movie.
Yes.
So give us a little brief snapshot into making Brave the Dark. Was it a short process, long process?
I wrote it in 24 hours. It was made the next day.
Magic.
You used ChatGPT for most of it, didn't you?
Done. No, 13 years ago, Stan and I were just out to eat one night, and we were just talking, and he's like, you should tell your story, write a book, do something. You should tell it. You're doing amazing things. Are you ready to tell your story? And I was like, no, not really. But I tried. I ended up writing some stuff down, and it was all the dark, heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember Stan reading it for the first time. He's like, Nate, this is awful. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, no, it's well written, but it's really dark. Your story is so much more light. Look what you went through. Yeah. He had to remind me again, you've been through hell, and look where you are. Yeah. And it was at that moment I realized that it wasn't my story that needed to be told. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my story alone. Right. It was his story and what he did for me that would make the story worth telling. Mm-hmm. And I sat down with my best friend, and we just talked over it, and we started writing my story. And Stan actually helped write some of it. And we wrote for almost 3 years. to get it to where it was chronologically from my birth, literally to today. Like we wrote this like 300-page script, which is like way too much for a movie, but I just wanted to get it all out there. And we read it for some friends. We did a live table read of it in front of 200 friends, and they loved it. They gave us a standing ovation, and Stan was there, and he got to hear it. And we knew at that point that this was a story worth telling. And we decided we really wanted to make it a movie. Like, I love movies. My friend loved movies, so we're going to make a movie. And so we started meeting with producers, and it was hard, and everyone was saying, you can't do this, you can't do this. But Stan gave me all the things that I needed that, you know what, you are good at what you do, and you can write this thing, and we're going to get this thing done. And it's really, an independent movie outside of Hollywood is really, 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 really hard to do.
Yeah.
But we wrote the story. We found some good producers, and we actually got to shoot it in 2021, right here in New Holland, where it actually happened, at the Garden Spot School and in the Stan Deen Auditorium, which they named after Stan even before he passed away. And so it was just so cool to see the community that he was such a part of come and surround us and make this movie. Was just so honoring and such a cool thing.
You even had like a really famous actor come in to play Stan.
Yeah, Jared Harris, right?
He was
Jared
in like
Harris.
HBO series Chernobyl, and I've seen him in a couple of things. He's
Mad Men.
He's genius.
Yeah, he's
How
really,
in the tarnation did you land
How
that?
do you do that?
I think the story is so good that when people read it, they cried. And they're like, I want to be part of this thing. And his brother ended up being the director. He actually, we locked him in first, Damian Harris. And they went out to lunch, and Damian's like, hey, I'm working on this, this play, this movie. Do you want to read it? And Jared's like, sure, I'll read it. And he came back the next day. He's like, I read it 3 times and I cried, and I just want to do it. I'd like to play Stan.
He wanted to play Stan.
He wanted to play Stan. And,
That's awesome.
the way you get an actor is you have to put money in an escrow account. We just didn't quite have enough money to pay this amazing actor. But every year he would allow us to renew it. He's like, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Wow. But then in right before COVID, literally, he's like, if we don't do it this fall, we're not going to do this movie. You need to do whatever it takes. So I worked with a local producer right here in Lancaster, Make Films, and Derek Diener, and we raised enough money in like 6 months, and we were able to shoot it in September of 2021. And it was just an incredible experience to be on set, to be encouraging, to lifting everyone up. Everyone was behind the story, loving the story. And so we got it in the can and edited it in LA and did all the music and everything. It was just an incredible journey.
And you got to know Jared Harris?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I consider him a friend. He really, really loved the story of who Stan was. Yeah. And I got to know him, and we're really good friends now. I still stay in touch, and we talk, and I go over to London and see him in his plays. And awesome. He's just an incredible human being too. Yeah. Like he really, really isn't just an incredible actor. He's an incredible human being. And
that's really exciting.
Yeah.
You kind of hope. When you see actors, right? You're like, please be nice. Please don't be a total jerk.
No, from the very beginning, he's just like, Nate, I want to do Stan justice. Like, I don't know if I can. Like, right? You're Jared Harris. But yeah, he did such an incredible job of portraying Stan. And, his biggest thing was Stan was so optimistic. And he's like, I can't live up to that. Like, oh my word, how can someone be so optimistic?
But that was that spiritual joy.
Yeah, that was that spiritual joy. And there was even talk of taking some of the moment of Stan praying, when Nate is in the hospital, like, hey, we're not going to do that. Like, there was let's take out Stan's spiritual parts of the movie. But as they read it and got to know who this was, they were very much like, no, we need to tell the story.
You can't remove that piece of him. That was
so
much a part of him.
Yeah.
So Nate, last thing, if there's a person that is a Nate out there listening, what do you say to that person?
Stop running. Stop running from what your problems are. They are huge things that you need to figure out a way to get over, but you can't keep running from them. They don't go away. Right. Take responsibility for the mistakes that you've made. Find someone. There's got to be somebody, a church, a pastor. Knock on doors. Go get therapy. Whatever you can do, find someone to tell your story with, and they'll get you the help that you need. Whatever it is that you're going through, big or small. There are people out there that are good and want to help, but you also have to want to change. You have to want to make that change. I hear stories all the time of like, I can't help my brother. He's on drugs. I put him in so many facilities to get help and drug rehabs, and he just keeps making mistake after mistake after mistake. Listen, you don't have to help in every way, but you just can't stop loving that person.
Right.
You just can't say, I don't ever want to see you again, go away. Continue to love and pour love on them because you don't know what they're going through. Yeah. But for that, Nate, just get help, stop running. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's encouraging. And if there's a Stan listening, do what you can, right?
Yeah, do what you can. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be perfect, right? But you can't give up. You got to stand up and just show up. Yeah. Just show up. And, some people, all they can do is write a check, but write a check. Yeah. Find a foundation. Find a nonprofit that you believe in that's helping young people.
Yeah.
I love that.
So cool.
Nate, I can't thank you enough for joining us here on the podcast today and sharing your story.
It's an honor. It's been an honor.
And I pray it's been healing as much as it has been encouraging and inspiring to me. Yeah. I know that in my own life, I want to leave here today asking the question, where can I be a light in the darkness? Right. And I want to look. So if you want more information about the Stan Deen Foundation, about Nate, about Brave the Dark, all that information is going to be in our show notes. And thank you both. Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the podcast. And if you are in a situation like Nate's, seek someone and stop running. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.